issue. For the press, we're talking about decades of people simply not having anywhere to go if they want to make a complaint, a genuine complaint. There is a real problem or there's a real abuse of editorial standards.
Because suing is not really an option.
Well, that's the other thing. If the newspaper tells blatant lies about you, yes, if you've got the money, you can go to court. But how many people have actually got enough cash behind them? It costs a lot of money. Do you know how many press inquiries we've had in the last 75 years?
I'm going to guess it's 7.
I knew you'd know the answer. Absolutely right. So 7 separate inquiries into the behaviour of the press, each one on the back of abuses of editorial standards, each time coming up with very sensible, moderate recommendations for how things might change. And every single time, the government of the day has run a million miles away.
Tell me finally, why does it matter so much?
I think that's really important, because some people will look at this and will go, it's journalism. I mean, you know, so what? You know, if you're an architect and you break the rules, then your building falls down and somebody might die. That's important. This is just journalism. And there are 2 reasons. First of all, because we actually rely on people telling us the truth for for democracy to work. But I think there's actually a much more important reason, which is that these people ruin other people's lives. It's as much about clicks on social media and on the internet as it is about what's in the newspaper.
Well, Danielle Hindley. Now, you had a nail salon, is that the right?
Yeah, I do a lot of different treatments in hair, nails, beauty, a little bit of aesthetics and semi-permanent makeup.
Tell me the story.
So, the back end of 2017, I had a journalist come into my home with a hidden camera pretending to be a client, and she was asking strange questions that clients don't ask. It was only the next day after. I couldn't stop thinking about this woman that had been in my house. Because I knew she wasn't a client. She'd text me from a phone number to book it, so I Googled her phone number and it came up straight away. Charlotte Waste, Daily Mail reporter.
Oh.
And, yeah. So first of all, I contacted the police because I thought she'd been in my home. By this point, I didn't just check who she was. I looked at some of her other articles that she'd done, and she'd done some other questionable articles in the beauty industry. Then I started looking at some of the articles, and there were photos on the articles that you could tell were screenshots from hidden cameras. And I remember when she was in my house, she kept shuffling about, and her body language was really strange. And it just suddenly dawned on me, I thought, you've had a hidden camera in my house. So first of all, I contacted the police and I said, look, I've had a journalist in my home. She had a hidden camera in my house. My son at one point came downstairs into my workroom in his underwear because he'd just got out the shower. So I was like, listen, I'm not happy for somebody to film my child. And the police were basically like, listen, journalists can do what they want. Like, we don't have any way of dealing with them. Once they printed the article, my business was done.
So what happened? They printed the article and it said what?
They said that I disfigured a client, which is untrue. They said that I was not qualified, that I wasn't insured, that I wasn't licensed. And basically they basically called me a rogue beautician, a cowboy cosmetic. They made people scared to come to me, and they made me out to be a criminal. It was a double-page spread. It had photos of me. It told them the village that I lived in, so everyone in the village was calling me scum. Yeah, like my neighbours were shouting scum at me and stuff because I live in a really nice little village. And they were, oh my God, they were trolling me like you wouldn't believe. You'd thought I'd killed somebody the way they were trolling me. Every beautician, I think, in England that ever thought I was some sort of competition were loving it. I had customers that had come to me for years, and it's affected some of my family relationships now forever. You know, I don't have any relationship with my mother or my siblings, and that ultimately is because of that article and because People believe what they read. If I hadn't have proved in the way that I did, if I hadn't have gone to Ipso, and then if I hadn't have then gone a step further and you know, taken a libel case to the Mail and won, I don't think my business would have recovered. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't think I would be here now either.
Yeah. So tell me about the libel case.
So once the Ipso had upheld my complaint, which they didn't do a good job, but they upheld the most important bit.
They did uphold it?
Yeah, I was one of the less than 1% that they upheld, but they didn't have a choice, John. I emailed them every single day for 8 months, and I told them how bad it was affecting my health. I told them that I was suicidal. I made it very clear that I wasn't going to go away until they made them print the truth. And then when they upheld the complaint, they said the Mail had to print a correction on page 2 of the Mail on Sunday.
Page 2?
Yep.
Come on.
It wasn't printed on page 2.
No.
They had a more important story about Harry and Meghan, apparently. What they'd printed about me initially was a double-page spread.
Yeah.
And the correction
is this side.
A little sentence, the tiniest sentence. I couldn't even find it. My friend found it, and she was like, "Oh, they have printed it. I found it." Nobody could find it.
Oh, it's hilarious.
And also, nobody was talking about that. When I was, you know, putting all over social media, yay, they've printed a correction, nobody gave a damn. When you sat down, you said, you know, the paper ruined your business. The paper ruined my mental health. My business will survive because I'm very good at my job. My business came back and my business is okay. What they did to my mental health was unforgivable. My son nearly ended up without a mother because of that. Because I didn't leave my bedroom for months. Like, when it was, before I even, when it was all ongoing, I think this was just when I was dealing with Ipso, I did not leave my bedroom. I didn't shower. I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't eat. I was living on cups of tea that my child was making for me. Yeah, I cost them a lot of money, I did. But no matter how much money they had to spend on their legal fees, my legal fees and my compensation, it was never going to be enough to make what they did to me and my son okay. It'll never be okay, and that's why I still do things like this where I do speak about it, because there's a lot of people, because the way media law is set up, it's not set up to help people like me.
No.
My case cost hundreds of thousands in legal fees. I didn't have that money to do that. I was just fortunate enough that I came across a lawyer who basically was my hero. Hacked off, put me in touch with him. He's called Jonathan Code. He asked me what happened and I told him. And he said, there's not really any such thing. There's no win, no fee in media law. He said, but I'm going to do something for you. He said, I'm going to take on your case and I'm going to help you. I said, listen, I've researched you and I know that you deal with royal family, you deal with celebrities. You don't need my case. Like, why have you taken my case on? And he said, because I'm a devout Christian and you need me. And I thought, wow, because I used to go to bed every night during this period, and I'm not religious, but I went to bed every night and I got on my knees and I begged and I prayed and I said, you need to send somebody to help me, because I didn't know what to do. And so then when he said that to me, I thought, oh my God, I might have to start going to church.
Well, at least there's some decent people around, right? Even if they're not Fleet Street editors.
Yeah.
Danielle, I just want to thank you for telling us this. And it's very touching. Thank you. And thank Jonathan Code, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
No, Hacked Off was born out of all the revelations that appeared after the hacking of the murdered schoolgirl, Millie Dowler's phone.
Millie Dowler. So what year was that?
So that would have been 2011.
11. Mm-hmm.
A group of people sort of, thank you so much,
Pay no attention.
got together and thought, I mean, I wasn't involved then, but got together and thought, enough's enough. The people, people who were really involved in this area, this sense of regulation and press and that type of thing and news. And they felt that they'd had enough, and they felt there should be a public inquiry. The relationship between the press and the public, the press and the police, and the press and politicians.
All right, so how did you get into Hacked Off?
Well, as I was, I worked, as well as being a police officer, I worked on a TV programme called Crime Watch for 16 years. 16 years.
16?
Yeah, 16 years.
I've got to figure out how old you are.
I'll make up a figure later, don't worry.
Okay. Well, I'm 83, so...
and as a result, has slightly public profile. But actually, it wasn't really because of that. My husband was investigating a murder, which of a private investigator called Daniel Morgan, and he was murdered.
Daniel Morgan, he was investigating that one?
Yeah, and as a result of being on that inquiry, it was discovered that we, as a family, would be under some sort of threat of them trying to influence the way he conducted that murder inquiry, and we were put under the umbrella of the witness protection scheme, and it was all very difficult. But at one point we were put under surveillance, thinking it was the people responsible for this axe murder, but when they were stopped, it turned out they were paid for and employed by News of the World. And it turned out that they'd hacked our phones, they were putting us under surveillance, it is really like being in the Matrix film. You feel like you've entered an alternate universe. And suddenly everything is looking really different, and you're seeing things from a completely different perspective. So when I was asked by Hacked Off to come and sign this petition for a public inquiry at that point, I said, yes, I think we really need to start to uncover what actually happened.
But what do you do?
Well, there's several aspects to what we do. One is talking to politicians and lobbying and bringing a different perspective to the information
sort
that
of
they
persuasion.
Gentle persuasion and ideas as to how this problem can be solved. But we also do advocacy for victims, people like me, ordinary people, and people in the public eye who are really struggling to get any sort of justice.
What I'm interested in is, what's this regulatory body? I mean, it's called IPSO, and it replaced the Press Complaints something or other.
Press Complaints Commission, PCC.
Commission, that's right. And that was dismantled after Leveson and replaced by IPSO. When I say replaced, tell us about IPSO.
Well, it was basically the same organisation. They just literally the same building, and they changed the
same offices,
the sign over the door, effectively.
I mean, you couldn't write this, as my comedic friends say. They just changed the name on the door. They kept the same office.
Well, that's what it kind of felt like to the rest of us.
And then the newspapers pay for this body that's supposed to regulate them.
And they write their editor's code, which is supposed to be a framework for, their ethical conduct.
And that code is laid down by 10 editors and 3 laypersons, right? So that sort of gives the press a little bit of an advantage.
Exactly.
And these guys who decide whether it's a legitimate complaint against the press are paid for by the press.
Yeah.
It's a Python sketch.
It's marking their own homework.
Yeah, yes, I like that phrase. Ah, what a joke, hey?
Frustrating. I mean, you have to laugh because it is so ridiculous, but...
Say something to cheer me up.
Say something to cheer you up? We're here fighting, John. We're not going to give up. We've been here for 11 years, and we absolutely are not going to give up now.
Hacked Off, ladies and gentlemen. Look it up. All right.